To her, I was just background noise. A tired traveler in a hoodie and shades, slouched like everyone else in first class. Nothing special. Nothing worth noticing. But the moment she looked me up and down, she narrowed her eyes and dropped 5 words that lit a fire in my blood. "People like you don't belong here." She didn't whisper it. She wanted me to hear it. What she didn't want was what came next. Because I wasn't just another passenger. I was the last person she should have messed with at 35,000 feet. Before we dive in, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. And trust me, this one's going to hit at 35,000 feet. The airport at LAX was its usual graveyard of tired eyes and recycled air. Late flights, caffeinated sighs, and the faint scent of floor polish mixed with fast food. I sat slouched near gate 74B, hoodie up, sunglasses down. Even though the sun had disappeared hours ago, invisible, exactly how I needed to be. To anyone watching, I was just another worn-out traveler, probably a consultant flying home after a long business trip. No one gave me a second glance. That's the point. In my line of work, blending in isn't optional, it's life or death. Because in reality, I wasn't just Fred Monk, exhausted man with a bad travel pillow. I was on assignment, Federal Air Marshal, contracted to protect this flight from anything or anyone that might try to take it down. Most flights are quiet, uneventful. You read too much into a nervous cough or a twitchy hand, and 6 hours later you're just a guy who drank too much free coffee. But this flight was different. There had been a quiet flag. No confirmed threat, just a pattern. Fewer landings, more passenger incidents. A digital twitch in the background noise. So I listened to that twitch. Because danger doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. You ever feel the air change the moment someone walks into a room? Not temperature, energy. Like the calm gets sucked out instantly, replaced with static, ego, and entitlement. That's what happened when she walked up to the gate. The airline staff didn't know it yet, but a storm was boarding. She didn't glide in. She arrived, like she owned the entire terminal. Designer luggage trailing behind her, phone mounted on a rhinestone-studded gimbal, live stream already running. Her voice? Sharp, loud, almost calculated, designed to turn heads even if you didn't want to look. "Can you believe this?" She barked toward her camera. "They weighed my carry-on. Mine. I'm a 1,000,000-mile member. Who here doesn't know who I am?" I didn't answer. No one did. But the energy around her? It dropped 10 degrees. She wasn't loud because she was angry. She was loud because she wanted an audience. And now she had one. The gate agent tried to reason politely. "Karen." I didn't know her name yet, but let's be honest. She introduced herself like her first name was a job title. Started lecturing about brand image and legal retaliation. It was all being streamed live to her followers, who were probably eating up every second. I scanned her movements, not because she was disruptive, but because she was confident. Too confident. People like her? They treat rules like suggestions, and authority like an inconvenience. That makes them unpredictable. Some people walk into a room, my uncle used to say, like they expect the world to play extras in their movie. Well, this actress was about to get a plot twist she didn't see coming. And I had front row seats. There's a moment right before a storm hits when everything goes still. Not peaceful. Tense. Heavy. That's what it felt like when I stepped onto the jet bridge and saw her already in first class, practically holding court like she owned the damn cabin. She didn't know it yet, but the thing she thought she ruled? I was the one keeping it all from falling apart. My boarding group got called next, Group 2. I grabbed my single carry-on duffel and walked like a passenger, but scanned like a protector. Always. Every nervous eye, every oversized bag, every twitch. The jet bridge felt colder than the terminal. Pressure building. I could feel it. Then I saw her. Seat 1C. Aisle seat in the first row of first class. Her row. Phone still propped up. Still recording. She was complaining again to the flight attendant. This time about champagne. Or the lack of it. "What is the point of elite status?" she whined. "If there's no glass waiting for me when I sit?" She said it like she expected us all to clap. I moved down the aisle, bag over my shoulder. As I passed her seat, the duffel may have brushed an inch of air near her. I didn't touch her. I didn't need to, but that was enough. Her head snapped toward me, scanning me: hoodie, jeans, boots, civilian clothes, civilian face, civilian status. She sneered. "Oh, great. People like you don't usually sit in first class. I hope you know how to behave." Right behind her, an older woman leaned toward her husband. He muttered, "She doesn't know who that man really is." His wife nodded. "He looks cleaner than her camera roll," she whispered. The man just said, "Bet he's packing more than peanuts." I didn't smile. I didn't break character. I just took my seat. 2A, right behind her, exactly where I needed to be. Most people look around an airport and see travelers. I see patterns, posture, pulse, pressure. That's the difference between a passenger and a protector. And from seat 2A, what I saw forming wasn't turbulence, it was a setup. Because Karen wasn't flying solo. She had help, and I had 5 seconds to confirm everything. I settled into my seat, 2A, aisle. Just close enough to intervene in a heartbeat, just far enough to blend. That's the craft. Be forgettable. I pulled out my phone, eyes down, posture lazy. Casual to the cabin. Coiled underneath. From this spot, I had line of sight to the cockpit door, the forward galley, and, most importantly, Karen. I also clocked someone else. 3C. Same row, other aisle. Nervous. Sweaty palms on his jeans. Kept glancing at Karen. At first I thought he was just a frustrated traveler stuck next to a walking tantrum. But he wasn't annoyed. He was waiting for something. Watching. Timing. My gut flagged him hard. That's when Leah walked by, the lead flight attendant on this route. Tall, focused, eyes like radar. We knew each other from previous flights. She approached me with a smile that meant nothing to anyone else. "Can I offer you a pre-departure water, Mr. Monk? Still or sparkling?" Bingo. This was our coded check-in. We don't use badges or secret handshakes. Just one subtle question. My answer is the cue. Still. "It's been a long day," I said flatly. Leah's eyes caught mine, just for a pixel's breath. One heartbeat of recognition. Then she nodded. Gone like smoke. The dance was done. She now knew 2 things. 1, I was the onboard Federal Air Marshal. 2, I wasn't just here to watch. I was on standby to act. And believe me, that action was coming. Fast. They say pressurization keeps a plane safe. But it's not the cabin I was worried about. It was Karen. And she was about to test what happens when you put a small spark in a sealed steel tube 35,000 feet in the sky. The question wasn't if she'd go off. It was when. The door sealed with a heavy thunk, and in that moment, we became a world of our own. No turning back. No airport police. No gate agents. Just one crew, one cockpit, and one problem sitting smugly in 1C. Karen had already tested the waters during boarding, but now, with the cameras off and the rules locked in, she showed her real self. As we taxied, seatbelt sign glowing overhead like a quiet warning, she undid hers, loudly, stood straight up. "Excuse me," she huffed, reaching into the overhead bin. "I'm just grabbing my hydrating face mist. My skin needs this." Leah, calm as ever, stepped in. "Ma'am, you need to remain seated." Karen didn't even look at her. "Do you know who I am? Because my followers will, and they like to cancel people." Her voice wasn't yelling, but it was cutting, deliberate, weaponized entitlement. The kind that twists rules into attacks and crew into villains. Leah didn't back down. "It's an FAA regulation." That was the warning shot. The first real checkmate move of the night. Words like regulation make people like Karen feel hunted, cornered, challenged. Her glare could burn through steel, but she sat. Not because she agreed. No, she was planning her next move. And I knew this wasn't over. In fact, it had only just begun. A storm was brewing, laced with ego, strategy, and something far darker. Some people throw tantrums for attention. Others, they build chaos like it's planned theater. What Karen was doing, it wasn't loud for loud's sake. It was choreography. And every seatbelt click, every drink cart move, every fake cough was part of something bigger. Something that was about to go airborne. The first hour passed in what most passengers would call peace. Drinks were served, seatbelts unclipped, tray tables down. But if you knew where to look, that peace was paper thin. I watched Karen accept her champagne like she was receiving a sacred offering. She swirled it, inspected the bubbles, then launched into a full monologue for her phone about how the cabin lighting made her look poor on camera. But I wasn't watching her words. I was watching the way 3C, the sweaty, twitchy guy from earlier, kept glancing over at her, then back at his phone. Once, she gave him the subtlest of nods, barely visible. Not a partner in crime, more like a choir, waiting for the downbeat. That's when the push began. Ding, ding, ding ding. Multiple call buttons rang out, rapid, from the coach section. Leah and Rory scrambled. Medical issue, row 28. Came over the PA and suddenly economy turned into a chaos magnet. A woman was struggling to breathe. Panic in her husband's voice. Passengers turning in their seats. Crew pushing carts back. A doctor being paged. And guess what? Karen didn't even glance. She reached into her bag casually, drank slowly, then stood up. Again. I need skincare, and I'm not letting plain dryness ruin my brand, she said, brushing past the cart that Rory was helplessly trying to maneuver. Meanwhile, her friend in 3C stood up with fake urgency. Bathroom emergency, he mumbled and ignored orders to sit. He pushed forward, straight toward the cockpit door. My stomach dropped, not because of fear, but because everything was falling into alignment. Medical distraction in the back. Cockpit distraction in the front. Karen standing near the galley. Aisle blocked. Crew scattered. This was more than rude. It was a coordinated attack. The tension was now a pressure system inside the plane itself. I didn't move yet, but inside, I was loading every mental weapon in the arsenal. Because the next person to move might not be carrying a water bottle. They might be trying to bring the whole plane down. Ever seen a weapon get born right in front of you? It doesn't look like a gun. Not always. Sometimes it's a bottle of wine. A moment of chaos. A sharp edge on recycled carpet. That's how it started. A single drop of turbulence, and everything spiraled into attack. The plane jolted hard, like a punch from beneath. Seatbacks clacked. Passengers gasped. Bags shifted in the bins above. The turbulence that had been light turned violent in one twist of sky. Enough to make your stomach climb into your throat. Then impact. The galley cart slammed free from its latch and crashed against the cockpit bulkhead. A bottle of red wine from the top flew high, hung in the air like a dream, then shattered. Not into droplets, into weapons. Big jagged glass. Purple-red splatter raining down the galley wall. It looked like blood at first. Everyone froze, except Karen. Her eyes snapped downward, to the broken glass neck lying just inches from her perfectly polished heel. Inside her gaze, something hardened. Not panic, not fear, intent. She crouched and casually swiped it off the galley floor. Just like that, the livestream diva turned predator. She wasn't raving anymore. She was calculating. 3 seconds later, her nervous companion in 3C burst out of the lavatory, scream already climbing in his throat. He launched himself at the cockpit door, palms and fists pounding against it. Open the door. Let us in. You don't understand. The aisle was blocked. The crew was behind carts. Karen closed in behind him, bottle shard in hand like a dagger. And me? I moved. I shot up from 2A and crossed the aisle with trained precision, landing between Karen and the cockpit in one sharp movement. She froze. I spoke 3 words I'd been holding this whole time. Federal Air Marshal. Her eyes widened like her plane just changed altitude again. I raised my voice and my badge. Drop the weapon. Now. Behind me, 3C kept screaming and ramming the cockpit. Karen's bottle hand twitched. Rage, confusion, real fear twisted in her face. You're not real, she hissed. Oh, I said, locking eyes. I'm very real. My hand snapped to her wrist. It was go time. At 35,000 feet, there's no backup, no second chances, just quick decisions and consequences that fall as fast as a plane through turbulence. She thought I was bluffing, until the cuffs clicked, and the performance was over. Karen lunged, bottle raised, eyes wild. But I moved faster. I stepped through her swing, grabbed her wrist, thumbed the pressure point, and twisted. That weapon wasn't glass anymore. It was useless. Her gasp cracked through the air as the bottleneck fell, bouncing once before I kicked it under the seat. With one sharp movement, I turned her around and snapped the flex cuffs onto her wrists. Not too rough, but she knew. She was done. Behind me, the man from 3C was still pounding on the cockpit. Leah, finally freed from her blocked aisle, tossed me a second set of cuffs. Marcus, the quiet, solid man from 3D, met my glance, nodded, and stepped in without hesitation. Together, we took him down with zero commotion. Nobody else on that plane needed to feel afraid for one more second. He didn't fight. Without her leading, he was just noise. I locked both in first class, seats 1A and 1C, restrained, seatbelted, fully neutralized. Karen looked up at me, sweating, lips trembling, but still burning with bitterness. "You have no idea who you're messing with," she spat. I leaned down and said only this: "People like me exist so people like you don't crash planes." She finally went silent, and across the cabin, I swear, the air got easier to breathe. She boarded that flight thinking she was untouchable. But when the wheels hit the runway, the only thing waiting for her was a wall of law enforcement and a spotlight she couldn't control. Fame might open doors on the ground. Up here, it slams them shut. Once both suspects were restrained, I radioed the flight deck. The captain's voice came back cool, steady. "Copy that, Marshal. We're calling ahead. Diverting straight to Denver. Emergency Protocol 1 in play. Translation: full lockdown. Priority landing. FBI at the gate." Nothing says "welcome home" like tactical vests and federal charges. I stood guard up front while Leah and her crew prepped for high-speed descent. The cabin descended with us. Fast, ears popping, adrenaline still thumping. Karen squirmed in her seat, the cuffs biting into her wrists. She started muttering legal threats again, but no one was listening. Not the crew, not the passengers, and definitely not me. When we landed, it wasn't smooth. It was deliberate. Hard touchdown. Reverse thrusters screaming. Flashing red and blue waiting at the gate like a welcome committee from hell. 2 agents stormed in. Black gloves. Blank faces. Business. I handed them off, Karen first. She tried to say something like, "This is a mistake." Her partner? Too busy crying. The agents snapped real cuffs on and walked them off the plane. Cameras weren't rolling anymore. Now it was just consequences. The passengers watched in silence. And when the two were gone, they clapped. Not loud. Just enough. Like survivors. And me? I stayed rooted, stone calm. Because my job wasn't just to protect. It was to finish with everyone safe, including the ones who never knew how close they came to danger. She thought power came from a camera, a status, a seat in first class. But real power? It walks quiet, stays calm, and it only speaks when it needs to. That's the kind of power she didn't know was sitting right behind her. After the arrest, I stayed behind. Standard protocol. Reports. Debrief. But mostly I just sat there on that same seat in 2A. I wasn't thinking about Karen. She'd already written her ending. I was thinking about everyone else. The elderly couple who cracked sarcastic jokes to hide fear. The mom calming her kid with cartoons when the turbulence hit. The flight crew who stood tall while the cabin fractured around them. That's who I protected. And they'll never know how close they came to real danger until they're watching this story from home on YouTube. Let Karen chase fame. Let her believe millions of followers make you bulletproof. What matters isn't who's watching, it's why you watch. Me? I watched so no one had to. And yeah, maybe people like me aren't celebrities. We're not upgraded or applauded or thanked. But we make damn sure the plane lands. Because real power doesn't need to be seen. It just needs to be right where it's supposed to be. If this story made your blood boil or gave you chills, don't just scroll past. Smash that like button so YouTube knows stories like this matter. And drop a comment below. What would you have done in seat 2A? Sit quiet? Speak up? Step in? I read every single one because every perspective counts. And if you believe respect, safety, and quiet courage still belong at 35,000 feet, subscribe. We've got more stories the world tried to overlook. But not on my watch.